Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are returning to the My Favorite LJN tournament, and guys, it's occurred to me that I've kind of messed up this LJN tournament, and that kind of sucks. Now, nothing messed up with the tournament, not really itself, nothing with the matchups or anything like that, but just kind of looking over my little notes here. You know, with all these tournaments I've conducted, with all the LJN tournaments, and in fact, Hasbro tournaments, tag team tournaments, Remco, basically any tournament I've done in the past, it's always been 7 rounds deep, right? And so when I've done this tournament, I'm thinking, okay, bam, 7 rounds deep. You get to round 6, you're gonna have, you know, probably 4 figures remaining for the semifinals, because you generally have an uneven number. It's not going to break down, right? It's not going to basically break down, let's say 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, right? So you're not going to go break it down into that even number, make it to an even 2 number, even 4-man semifinals, 2-man finals. You're probably going to end up with like a 5-man semifinals, 3-man finals type of deal. But I'm looking over my notes, and I've been saying, okay, this is round 5, and you're going to have 5 winners. You're going to move on to round 6, and once we get to round 6, 5 winners. We're gonna take those 5 winners. We're gonna choose 3 winners to move on to round 7. Not so fast. We had 40 wrestlers, 40 figures in round 4. That was 20 matchups. Did I say that right? 20 no, that doesn't sound right. Oh man, I gotta relook at this again, because alright, so round 4, 8, 12, 16. Yeah, so we had 20 matchups. We had 40 matchups and 20 winners in 40 figures, 20 winners in round 4. Yeah, I said it right. 40 figures. So you're not going to have 7 rounds. What the hell am I doing? Got my coffee cup all up in the way here. In a nutshell, guys, I'm retarded. We're not going to have 7 rounds. I basically said all of that. I could have just said it in 5 seconds, and you know how I like to talk. It takes me 20 minutes to say what I could have just said in 1 minute. I have a habit of doing that. I always have to over-explain. Sorry. Alright, so, yeah. I'm just going back to my notes again. 4, 8, 12, 16. Yeah, we had 20 winners, so this means that we are going to have, again, we're still having 10 matchups. So that part will not change. Round 5, we'll still have 10 matchups. We're still going to do 3, 3, and 4 in round 5 as planned. We're still going to have 10 winners. 10 matchups, 10 winners. So round 6, when at the conclusion of round 6, we're going to have 5 winners. And round 6 is going to be not your semifinals of I guess it'd be your quarterfinals. Is that how it's going to break down? And then your semifinals will be round 7, and there will actually be a round 8, and round 8 will be your final match. So, yeah. So, that's how we are going to break it down. Yeah. So I just said a whole lot of crap for something I could have done in 2 seconds. That was a lot of over-explaining. I'm sorry. But 8 rounds. We are not doing 7 rounds. We're doing 8 rounds. So there is going to be at least one extra video that I did not originally plan for. So I guess, yay. I gotta sneeze. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze like crazy. Don't want to sneeze on camera. Alright, so again, just like the last video, guys, we're going to do another 3-man matchup. Shoot, we did 3 matchups the last video. It took 40 minutes. 3 matchups ain't going to make a difference. 3 matchups, 4 matchups. We're still looking at 40-minute videos, so I like to talk. But if we do this LJN tournament in the future, at the end of 2025, 2026, 2027, etc., I plan on doing it better. Meaning I plan on talking less, and hopefully I can find a way to try to reduce the amount of time I spend on the video, and hopefully get it to around 15 to 22 minutes, 15 to 25 minutes, and we're not spending 35 to 55 minutes per video, because I think that's why these videos don't get as many views as I would like, is because who wants to spend 45 minutes on a video every single day, right? But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and draw the names of today's matchups. All right. First name drawn, Hulk Hogan, Series 1. Gotta stop looking inside the bucket. And he will... Oh, that is a good match. That is a good match. From Mark Hackenberg, King Kong Bundy. I kind of know where I'm going with that one, but it's not one I'm happy about. All right, next matchup. All right, and that was Papa Shango. Papa Shango and Papa Shango takes on the Berserker. Dang. That's a tough one. I have no idea what I'm going to choose on that one. Papa Shango has been a fan favorite of mine for the last couple of rounds, and actually one that I kind of feel like I've actually been talking about the last couple of times I brought him up, that he might actually be a potential to win this tournament. But the Ram Treasures Berserker figure, I've argued, is actually one of those figures that, on a case-by-case basis, may not win against a lot of LJN figures, but against someone like a Bruiser Brody, I think on a 1-on-1 against that particular figure, I think he has a good chance of beating him. Now, do I want to keep him in the tournament just to potentially beat Brody? That's going to be a tough match. But let's see what happens. All right. Hawk Red. And he will square off. Oh. Butch Reed Special Custom. I have a general idea on that one as well, but another favorite is going to be dismissed from the tournament. And I was really hoping to get one more round out of that one. So, all right, guys. Let's go ahead and pause the video, pull the figures, and let's get started. All right, names drawn, figures pulled. And let's begin. And we said Hogan, Series 1, is going up against Mark Hackenberg's King Kong Bundy. And we will start off with the Bundy figure. So here we are in round 5, and what is it, last 20 figures standing? That's crazy. I love that fact. Think about that. 320 figures. I want to make this argument again. 320 figures. 300 figures are gone from competition entering this round, down to your last 20 figures, and we have essentially a Series 2, is it? Yeah, Series 2 King Kong Bundy figure still in competition. And that's important because the Series 2 King Kong Bundy with the arms, the way that it's positioned, is not a good figure based on play pose. Now, yes, original King Kong Bundy has been eliminated. I think he was eliminated back in round 3, I believe. Maybe round 4. Maybe it was round 4. I don't really recall. But that was still a good run, even for the original figure, considering the amount of figures and whatnot. I've said it before. This play pose, it's still something that I'm familiar with because of the Lex Luger Galoob figure. So it was something I was accustomed to playing with growing up. And even though this right here is not the play pose that I enjoy or that I covet, that I despise the particular play pose, but when I started using these figures to kind of get the feel for the figures, the King Kong Bundy figure was still one of the most utilized, one of the most enjoyable, playable figures. Play pose be damned. You still pretend to do body slams and punches and all that stuff, regardless. Right size, right build, right girth, weight, perfect. Love the figure. And take all of that and add on what Mark did with his figure. Take the singlet, take the skin, turn all that into a t-shirt, and suddenly you give it that extra graphical design, and you take a great figure and you turn it into an even more incredible figure. Take a regular ordinary boots. What do I talk about? Take ordinary black boots, add on some laces, add that additional color scheme, make it really pop. Okay? Add in those extra graphics for the t-shirt. You have an immensely incredible, fantastic figure that I am just going to sit there and brag about all day. And a freaking awesome accessory to boot. Come on. All day, every day, this figure 100% deserves to be a round 5 figure. And even if this wasn't a Mark Hackenberg custom, like I said, if this was just an ordinary run-of-the-mill Series 2 LJN original, I would still be incredibly ecstatic that a King Kong Bundy made it to round 5. I think any King Kong Bundy deserves to be a round 5 figure. Whether you're looking at 100 figures, 200 figures, 1,000 figures, it's one of my favorites. And I don't know, man, looking at these particular pieces that I've just described, I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to say that this is the end of the line for King Kong Bundy. So, we could all sit there and argue all day long about the greatest potential playable action figure ever, or the iconicness of what the Hulk Hogan LJN figure, the look of the figure, the championship belt, the awesome play pose, right? But the one thing that I will argue that has always bothered me with this particular figure, now with the Series 5 white and red shirt, where they did improve is they added the extra girth to the figure. Hulk Hogan's like a 305-pound guy, right? But in Series 1, they made him this extra thin figure. And that's really the biggest drawback with the Series 1 Hulk Hogan. Now, you got to look at the figures. At this stage in the tournament, you can't really harp on all of what you love about the figures. Now you really got to dive in and say, okay, what is it about the figures that you don't like? Now you got to harp on the bad things. Because these are all perfect figures. They're all figures that deserve to win a tournament like this. So what is it about the figures that make them deserve to not move forward? We already know King Kong Bundy, bad arm pose. That right there is enough to say, well, you know what? That pretty much would eliminate him from competition. For Hulk Hogan, is the thinness of the figure enough to say, you know what? That's not good enough. I like thickness. I like girth. I like weight to the figures. King Kong Bundy has that thickness. He has that grip. When you sit there and you hold the Hulk Hogan, he does have an amazing grip. Thinness or not, he does have an awesome grip to the figure. Very playable action figure. When you're sitting there and you're working with these figures, they're just awesome, fantastic pieces. And that body slam pose, I always covet. Hulk Hogan, the way that the arms are positioned, has absolutely the most perfect body slam positioning of the arms. When I talk about the body slam pose, perfect body slam, that is it. You got that perfect punch, right? And the way that the arms are situated, you got that perfect clothesline, right? This is why I enjoy the AW Remco figures because, yeah, they're all the same play pose, right? But they're all playable figures. You don't really have a bad figure because they're all serviceable. You look at Hasbro, you look at LJN, yeah, they got different poses, which is awesome, galoob, but there's uniqueness, there's differentiation, which is awesome. But then you're going to have some figures which are great, then you're going to have some figures which are really, really bad. Like Bob Orton, absolutely horrific. Jake Roberts, horrific. If all of your figures were Hulk Hogan, all of them, playability is perfection. I said if Hulk Hogan makes it out of round 5, there's a good chance Hulk Hogan wins the tournament. I think at this point, now knowing that there's an extra round, that might alter my perspective. Now he might need to make it out of round 6, knowing that there's a round 8 that he needs to make it into, but I am going to go with Hulk Hogan after all. Hulk Hogan in an elongated tournament, knowing that there's an extra round, will make it to round 6. Knowing that this figure has never made it out of round 1 in the first 2 tournaments, now making it to 6 out of 8 rounds, he is definitely doing his just desserts this time around. Hulk Hogan is in. He is going to be one of the last, last 10 standing now. So, Hulk Hogan moves on. But for Mark Hackenberg's King Kong Bundy, one of the last 20 figures standing, definite praise goes out to this figure. It was an amazing run. Next battle for Ram Treasures, Berserker, as he does battle against Papa Shango. This one I'm probably going to go back and forth on. If that last one wasn't hard enough, this one might be just as difficult. In all honesty, when I first started this tournament, I didn't think that Papa Shango was going to go very far. I mean, I thought he had a chance to go maybe 2 rounds. With the right tournament, right matchups, possibly 3. I didn't think that this was something that I was really going to harp on and think that it was going to be, you know, like a crazy long run in this tournament. Like, if he made it 4 or 5 rounds, I mean, he must have, like, really had, like, some really poor competition. But no. After seeing some matchups, after talking about this figure last couple rounds, looking at the details, the paint scheme, looking at his accessories, I think that this is one of the top figures of the collection. Regardless if he wins the tournament or not, regardless if he makes it past this round or not, again, any of these figures, making it to round 5, knowing you're one of the last 20 standing, that is a fantastic run. There are no shade to any of these figures. Knowing that you're one of 20 out of the last 320 standing, that's awesome. And I said this was like a $20, $30 figure. That's not true. On Mercari, I looked it up. And I said that a lot of these figures were like $30, but when I looked them up on Mercari, like Donald Trump, like, it was like $70. But here's the thing, like, I think it was like $70, $80. I don't think I paid $70 on this. I probably submitted an offer for a lot of these figures, and I probably got them for a lot cheaper. So, and because I bundled up a lot of items, you know, maybe I got like 6 or 7 figures for like $200, $230, something like that. So, if you say that this figure was like $70 originally, and I got like 6 or 7 other figures for like $200, I mean, this could have come in for like $40, for example. So, I mean, price-wise, hell of a steal, I think. I think this is an amazing purchase. And, like I said, during the tournaments, I don't think that the Iron Sheik play pose is as bad as I once believed. I probably still put Iron Sheik on my top 10 least favorite figures because I do like a good chunk of LJNs overall. But, I mean, it's not as bad as I once, you know, felt like, as I once believed. Charles Wright, I mean, I never really cared for Kama or Kama Sutra, or Kama Sutra. Kama Sutra, what the heck is this, India love book or something? Kama Mustafa, I mean, they sound similar enough, right? So why not? Kama Sutra, that's funny. I'm gonna get a laugh out of that for a while. What was I talking about? Charles Wright. Kama. Oh, you know what? As a side note, I kept looking it up, like maybe a year ago, and I kept looking up freaking the $1 Million Corporation. And I kept seeing Kama. Kama was part of the $1 Million Corporation. And for like the longest time, I kept thinking Kama. I kept thinking they were talking about Kamala. And they were just like abbreviating it or something. I'm like, hold on a minute. When the heck was Kamala part of the $1 Million Corporation? For the life of me, I did not remember Kama. Or Kama. I almost called him Kama Sutra again. Kama Mustafa. Now, once I remembered the boxer Kama, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. But when I saw Kama as part of the $1 Million Corporation, my first thought was Kamala. And I was confused like crazy. I'm like, Kamala was not part of the damn $1 million corporation. I'm sorry, you guys are like insane. But and of course, I never knew about Good Father, Godfather, and all those other characters. I mean, of course, those guys are probably long after I stopped watching wrestling. But Papa Shango, I love the gimmick. I just love the look of the figure. Another one of those crazy gimmicks that I was crazy about as a kid, and that was freaking Berserker. And it was just a really tall and fun character that you would beef with the Undertaker, and because of his size, he was probably someone that had a legitimate chance of being a legitimate threat for the Undertaker. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of like someone that wouldn't necessarily instill fear. Obviously, Giant Gonzalez is somebody with his height would instill fear in anybody. But I go back and I watch matches with the Giant Gonzalez and like battle royals, and everybody teams up and Giant Gonzalez is eliminated in like two seconds flat. I'm like, most times I don't think they even given him the opportunity to even showcase his real talent or whatnot. I mean, he's an athlete. I'm sure he could have done some things, but I mean, he was a basketball player, and you're asking a basketball player to step in and try to be a wrestler. I mean, he's not a trained wrestler, so how many times? Or it's like asking like a football player to step in and start acting or something like that. You know, I mean, not everybody can be Bo Jackson. Can't ask somebody to be a football player and a baseball player at the same time, or Deion Sanders or something. You know, be multi-sports. You know, be all-stars in multi-sports or something, right? But I mean, being multi-talented in multi-sports, I mean, that's different. But different careers like acting and sports, I mean, that's different aspects. But so, you know, wrestling is a completely different sport from basketball. And like I said, wrestling is, you know, part sports, but it's also part acting. So I don't think Giant Gonzalez really could really do too much. Was allowed to do as much as he could, and I think he was fired or wasn't extended. But at some point, I am going to get a Giant Gonzalez LJN figure, and when that happens, I'm going to be super excited about that. Nord the Barbarian, John Nord. You guys ever seen him on what was it? Judge Mathis. It was funny as heck. He tried to bring up his loose Hasbro figure, tried to tell the judge that his Hasbro figure was worth $600. I'm like, Johnny boy, you're insane. You can sit there and have a sign. You can sit there sign your own autograph on a mint on card Hasbro of your own figure, and I promise you that figure would not be worth $600. But oh god. It's funny that wrestlers call their own action figures dolls. Why do you always call them dolls? Like watching Bret Hart do a live interview, and he's up there talking about the LJN figures, and he's constantly calling them dolls. What's up with that? Boys don't play with dolls. We play with action figures. You guys know, man, when I don't have an answer and I don't know who to choose, I just start rambling because I'm hoping that eventually I will come up with something, but I'm at a loss. The one thing that I've always coveted about this figure, one of my great loves with this particular figure is the design of the boots of this figure, and that's just so special. The head mold, the things I'm leaning towards that are going to make me, or that I'm thinking might lead me to choose Berserker. The head mold, which is very Hasbro-esque. I like that a lot. Yes, I like the play pose better. And of course, he is a one-off, meaning he is basically created for himself. Whereas Papa Shango is taken from an actual Iron Sheik figure, right? So, but I really like this figure. I really think they did an awesome job. And you look at this figure and for an unsuspecting fan who didn't know any better, nobody would look at this and think that this was created from another figure. If they didn't follow if they didn't follow LJNs or anything like that, they would just think, hey, Papa Shango figure. I mean, would it be insane to think that this figure could go at least one more round and do some damage? Of course not. I'm going to go with the Berserker, though. One of the arguments I made earlier, I still think that there are several figures, not even just in this tournament remaining, but I think there's several figures that have been eliminated in the past that sit on that shelf that could potentially eliminate the Berserker. But the Bruiser Brody figure, pedestal, right? As a 2-time champion. I think the Bruiser Brody figure and the Berserker figure mesh well together as combatants. I look at the two figures, and I think on a 1-to-1 basis, I could look at both the figures, and I think I could go either way. So let's say Bruiser Brody wins his matchup in this round, and in round 6, random drawing, two figures square off against each other. Berserker could technically defeat Bruiser Brody in round 6. Now let's say, hypothetically, Bruiser Brody faces Colonel Mustafa in round 6. And Bruiser Brody wins. But Bruiser Brody faces Berserker. Berserker wins. But Berserker faces Colonel Mustafa. Colonel Mustafa wins. So it's like A beats B, but B beats C, but C always beats A type of deal. So it's, what do we call it when the snake eats its own tail type of deal. Oh dang, I forget that the name, but it's got a specific name. But anyways, Berserker is going to join Hogan in round 6. Last matchup, still a good one, man. Butch Reed, Special Custom, squares off against Legion of Doom, Hawk. And Hawk, he might get an automatic push to the next round just because. No, I'm just kidding. But let's talk about it, man. Doesn't have the greatest fighting pose in the world, but he does have one that's very similar to the Nikolai Volkov, which I've always enjoyed. Benefits. Play pose is good. Face paint, adequate. I mean, it's what I really, it's what I grew up watching. That's his face paint. That's what I'm accustomed with. Muscle definition, detail of the body and the sculpt, incredible. The rubber, it's very thin. I don't want to say flimsy, but it's very thin rubber. So it's not like I just did a review with the Big Rubber guys. Their rubber is super freaking hard. And then you feel like this rubber, and it's like, man, it's. I feel like, you bend the arms back, this stuff's gonna rip. I mean, it depends on how you feel. Some people might want that super thin rubber. Other people might want the super hard rubber, big rubber guys. So it depends on how you're feeling about the comfort level of your LGNs. But awesome piece, one of my favorites. The pants. Ram Treasures, Legion of Doom, Red, as I described them, have about the best set of pants. I said that these pants design on the AWA with spikes, Legion of Doom, would be about the most perfect figures. With the design on the pants and the boots would be absolute perfection. They would transition to the most perfect figures ever. That's crazy. I mean, just just arch your back and you just create that muscle. I love that. It's just so awesome. The Butch Reed figure is one of my 10. And I saw this figure on eBay, and I was in the process of the first round of my tournament. And I was probably in the latter half of the first round, and I saw this figure. I'm like, mind blown. That was so freaking good. I'm like, I need that figure. If that figure participates in my tournament, that could be game changing. That could be a legitimate tournament champion. I am seeing this figure on eBay, and I am already thinking to the end of the tournament. That is how good this figure was, and I didn't even own it. I didn't even have it in my hand yet, and I already thought that this could be my winner. So best believe I was trying my damnedest to have the winning bid for that auction. And then it took a few extra days for them to ship it out and everything. It took a while. I'm like, I was getting impatient. And then of course I was getting closer and closer to the end of my first round. And of course, as long as I had the figure in hand before the end of the first tournament, I was good because I was going to be able to include it in my tournament. Now, if the first round ended and this figure wasn't participating in the first round, then I couldn't use him, and that would have sucked. But he did arrive just in time, and I was able to include him towards the end of the tournament and or towards the end of the first round. I don't know what episode he appeared in, episode 35, 36, 37, I don't remember, but he was somewhere towards the end. And one of my 10, one of the guys I think have the best chance of winning this tournament. I really love the Gloop 2-Up, the WCW Gloop 2-Up from Ram Treasures. Always disappointing when that figure doesn't do well and always gets chucked so early in the tournament. But you basically got the same figure. It's still a Butch Reed, still exact same play pose, but it's improved upon. You got the natural Butch Reed, got upgraded hair color, you got a built-on vest, detail and color scheme throughout. Suddenly, I didn't feel too bad about the WCW Gloop 2-Up being chucked so early in the tournament. Yes, I would have loved that figure to have gone much further, absolutely, but I still had this one in tournament, and here we are, last 20 figures of the tournament, and he has a shot to make it to round 6. Everything about this figure says, you know what? This isn't just a round 6 figure. This could be round 7, maybe in the finals. I could see this, maybe a Big Boss Man and possibly a Bruiser Brody, possibly in the finals as the last 3 standing. He's got the play pose. He's got everything that you need in a playable action figure. I've already talked about what I desire in like a Hulk Hogan figure. I mean, it's very similar. It's kind of like a Hulk Hogan meets an SD Jones type of deal. So I talk about that Ultimate Warrior custom where it's a Hulk Hogan figure, but you got like the Ultimate Warrior head and color scheme and everything throughout. And I like it because it's kind of like a Hogan Warrior hybrid figure. It's kind of like a Hogan SD Jones hybrid, in my opinion. So this could be the most perfect figure ever. And I know I say that about a lot of figures, but it's definitely up there. I knew I was going to lose a heartbreaking. I was going to have a heartbreaking loss in this matchup. I am going to have to put down Legion of Doomhawk, and Butch Reed is going to move on to round 6. This is just too good of a figure. And really, a figure like this, anytime you lose a figure like this before round 5, round 6, too early. And with this tournament being extended to 8 rounds, realistically, before round 6 is too early. I'm excited to see him go another round and possibly into round 7 and maybe even into round 8 with the finals. We'll see what happens. Well, guys, that does complete round, what are we at? Round 5, part 2. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care, everybody.